Dubai, April 15th, 2007. It is 9:30 p.m. at the Wafi Mall. This isn't your average shopping center. It is an opulent, Egyptian-themed temple of extreme wealth. Polished marble floors, massive statues, and the kinds of stores where price tags don't exist because if you have to ask, you can't afford it. Shoppers are casually strolling past the brilliantly lit storefront of Graf Diamonds. Everything is calm. Everything is secure. Until it isn't. Suddenly, two sleek, black Audi A8 sedans violently crash straight through the mall's giant glass doors. They don't stop. They drive perfectly in sync, tires screeching on the slick marble, dodging pillars until they slam on the brakes right in front of the Graf boutique. Masked men dressed in tactical black gear leap from the cars. They aren't panicked. They move with the chilling, robotic precision of a military strike team. One man wields a heavy sledgehammer, violently smashing through the reinforced display cases. Another man sweeps handfuls of oversized, blindingly bright diamonds into black duffel bags. 50 seconds pass. The men jump back into the Audis. They throw the cars into reverse, spin out, and speed away into the desert night. In less than 1 minute, they have stolen $3.4 million in diamonds. Not a single shot was fired. No one was hurt. And the thieves are completely gone. The local police are stunned. But international authorities? They aren't surprised at all. Because they've seen this exact, terrifying precision before. In Tokyo, in Paris, in London, in Geneva. They know exactly who did this. They are the most successful, elusive, and untouchable network of jewel thieves in modern history. They are the Pink Panthers. Today, we're looking at a network of thieves that has stolen over $500 million in jewels across 35 different countries. To understand the Pink Panthers, you first have to understand that they are not a traditional gang. There is no Godfather. There is no central clubhouse. They operate like a decentralized terrorist network, but their only ideology is cold, hard cash. The name Pink Panthers wasn't even their idea. It was given to them by detectives at Scotland Yard back in 2003. Following a massive $30 million heist at a Graf store in London, British police raided a suspect's hotel room. Hidden inside a jar of expensive face cream, they found a massive stolen blue diamond. It was a brilliant hiding spot, but more importantly, it was a trick pulled straight out of the 1975 Peter Sellers comedy movie, The Return of the Pink Panther. The British press had a field day. The name stuck. But make no mistake, these men are not goofy movie characters. They are master tacticians. In 2004, they hit a jewelry store in Tokyo, stealing $30 million in gems. But getting out of Tokyo is a nightmare of gridlocked traffic. A getaway car would be trapped in minutes. So, the Panthers wore Hawaiian shirts, dressed like clueless tourists, and escaped the heist on bicycles, weaving perfectly through the stalled traffic. In Biarritz, France, they wanted to rob a store, but there was a public park bench directly across the street where witnesses always sat. The day before the heist, the Panthers calmly walked up, painted the bench fresh green, and hung a wet paint sign on it. Nobody sat down. Nobody saw a thing. In Paris, they dressed in high-end drag, wearing dresses and prosthetics to bypass security. In Saint-Tropez, they escaped on high-speed boats. But their absolute trademark? Speed and discipline. Almost every Pink Panther heist is executed in under 60 seconds. They rely on the element of shock. And despite the fact that they carry heavy weaponry, often AK-47s or Magnum revolvers, they have a strict, unwritten rule. No killing. They will threaten. They will intimidate. And they will smash. But in hundreds of robberies over 2 decades, they have rarely pulled the trigger. Because murder brings the full weight of the state. Murder is bad for business. But how does a group of thieves operate with the tactical brilliance, logistical planning, and extreme discipline of a Special Forces military unit? Well, to answer that, we have to zoom out. We have to look at where they came from. It's the early 1990s. The fall of the Berlin Wall has sent shockwaves through Eastern Europe, but nowhere is the collapse more violent than in Yugoslavia. The country tears itself apart in a brutal, horrific civil war. Neighbors turn on neighbors. The borders of Serbia, Bosnia, and Croatia go up in flames. During this time, thousands of young men in the region are drafted into the military. They are trained in urban warfare, covert logistics, and the use of heavy firearms. Many join elite paramilitary groups like Arkan's Tigers. They learn how to infiltrate, how to strike fast, and how to vanish. But when the wars finally end in the late 90s, these men are discharged into a society that has been utterly destroyed. The Yugoslav economy was a wasteland. International sanctions had isolated the country from the rest of the world. Hyperinflation was so severe that the government printed a 500 billion dinar banknote, and it still couldn't buy a loaf of bread. Imagine being a 25-year-old man. You have elite military training. You have seen the horrors of war. You have no fear of violence, but you have no job, no money, and no future. In a broken state, the black market becomes the only market. Smuggling cigarettes, weapons, and fuel across borders became a normal way to survive. But eventually, these highly intelligent, disillusioned veterans looked west. They looked at London, Paris, and Geneva. They saw immense, concentrated wealth, and they saw an extreme vulnerability. Why diamonds? If you steal $1 million in cash, it weighs over 20 pounds. It's bulky. The serial numbers can be tracked. The die packs can explode. But $1 million in diamonds? You can put that in your pocket. You can swallow it. You can walk right through airport security, and the metal detectors won't even beep. The Pink Panthers realized that the global diamond trade was the perfect target. But stealing the diamonds is only step one. The real genius of the Panthers is their network. As we mentioned, there is no single boss. Instead, the Panthers operate through a web of around 200 to 800 individuals, mostly from Serbia and Montenegro. When a coordinator spots a target, say a boutique in Geneva, they don't use a pre-existing crew. They build a bespoke team for that specific job. They'll hire a getaway driver from Belgrade, a safecracker from Podgorica, and a muscle man from Bosnia. The team meets, they rehearse the job for weeks, they execute the 60-second smash and grab, and then they completely dissolve. They scatter back to the Balkans before the local police even know what hit them. But what happens to the diamonds? Within hours of a heist, the jewels are smuggled across borders, often hidden in the gas tanks of cars or inside hollowed-out electronics, and they arrive in the global diamond capital, Antwerp, Belgium. Here, the Panthers work with corrupt gemologists. You see, every high-end diamond has a microscopic laser inscription on it, like a license plate. If you try to sell a stolen diamond, it will be flagged immediately. So, the corrupt cutters take a massive, stolen 10-carat diamond, put it on a cutting wheel, and literally slice it down into 3 smaller 3-carat diamonds. They change the weight, they alter the shape, and they forge new, clean certificates. Within a matter of weeks, a diamond stolen at gunpoint in Dubai is perfectly legal again. It is sitting behind a pristine glass display case in New York City, being purchased by a billionaire who has absolutely no idea he is funding a Balkan crime syndicate. The stones are washed clean. For years, the Pink Panthers were untouchable. Local police forces in France or Japan couldn't communicate fast enough to catch them. The thieves were always one step ahead. But by 2007, the world had had enough. Interpol launched an unprecedented initiative called Project Pink Panthers. It brought together investigators from 20 different countries into one centralized hub. For the first time, police in Dubai were sharing DNA evidence with detectives in London and border guards in Switzerland. They started connecting the dots. A fingerprint left on a sledgehammer here, a discarded prepaid burner phone there, and slowly, the net closed in. Over the next decade, Interpol had massive successes. They identified and arrested dozens of core Panther members. They caught them in Paris, in Spain, in Greece. But catching a panther is one thing. Holding a panther is something else entirely, because the Panthers apply the exact same military precision to prison breaks as they do to jewelry heists. In 2013, a core member of the Panthers was being held in a highly fortified prison in Switzerland. One afternoon, 2 vans suddenly rammed through the main gates of the prison compound. Men armed with AK-47s jumped out, laying down suppressive fire to keep the Swiss guards pinned down. They threw wire cutters and a ladder over the recreation yard wall. The Panther operative casually climbed over the wall, jumped into the getaway vehicle, and vanished. The entire prison break took less than 5 minutes. It was a terrifying reminder that the war the Panthers wage doesn't stop at the prison gates. But here is the most fascinating part of the Pink Panther story. If you go to Western Europe or the UAE, the Panthers are viewed as ruthless, dangerous criminals. But if you go back to certain parts of Serbia or Montenegro, they are viewed as folk heroes. In a region that was economically devastated by Western sanctions and NATO bombings in the 90s, many locals view the Panthers as modern-day Robin Hoods. They see them as local boys who are outsmarting the wealthy, corrupt West. And the Panthers feed into this myth. The money they steal doesn't just sit in offshore bank accounts. Millions of euros flow back into the Balkans. The Panthers use the stolen wealth to open cafes, buy real estate, and fund local businesses. In towns where the government provides very little, the Panthers provide a lot. To many locals, they are just guys who figured out how to beat a rigged global system. Today, the landscape is changing. The original ex-military founders of the Pink Panthers are aging out, retiring, or sitting in maximum security prisons. But the network hasn't died. It has evolved. A new generation of Panthers has taken over. They didn't fight in the Yugoslav wars, but they grew up in its shadow. They are younger, tech-savvy, and highly adaptable. Instead of just sledgehammers, they use drones to scout targets. They use advanced cybersecurity to encrypt their communications. And instead of cash, they wash their illicit funds through cryptocurrency mixers. The Pink Panthers are a stark, uncomfortable reminder of how the world actually works. Crime doesn't happen in a vacuum. It is the delayed, inevitable consequence of war, economic collapse, and extreme inequality. You cannot shatter a country's economy, leave thousands of highly trained soldiers with nothing to lose, and expect them to just quietly disappear. As long as you have desperate, intelligent men on one side of the border and absurd, concentrated, uninsured wealth on the other, the glass is going to keep shattering.